It's time to make the bagels. Let's see what's new at Wayne's Bagels, located at Gangnam Station, Seoul, South Korea. Like bread, bagels are made from wheat flour, salt, and yeast. This restaurant adds eggs and a whole bag of all-purpose flour. Bagels can also use different types of flour, such as rye or coarse rye flour, known as pumpernickel. Another major difference between bread and bagels is that making bagels requires about 20% less water, and they are cooked differently. Now that all the ingredients are in, mix up the dough until it's gooey and pliable. The chef now plunks it all together and plays with the dough. He shapes it, breaks it, kneads, and squishes it. Now it is ready to be sectioned off into portions, then rolled into a rope about an inch thick. With the flick of a wrist, he makes loops and throws them aside. Bagels must be boiled in water for a minute before baking to give them their crispy outer layer while keeping their soft and chewy inside. Now that they're wet and still hot, they get dipped into a variety of toppings. One can make a sesame, poppy seed, fried onion, garlic, or a combination bagel. Some prefer extra rock salt or even plain. Some peculiar bagel eaters add cinnamon and raisins. To me, that's approaching donut territory. As you will see, this shop will make delicious sandwiches from these bagels, and raisins will have no place here. The topped-up dough is then lined up on a long board. The brick oven is stoked with firewood on the side, and the rows of bagel loops are slid in. After just the right amount of time, the whole board is flipped so each ring is cooked evenly. The boards are removed and scraped clean of their toppings. I hope they use the scraps to make a spicy, tasty birdseed for their local feathered friends. Next, the board is lined up with a different topping on the dough, and the first batch is pushed aside. The process is repeated as the assembly line of cooking bagels are scraped onto a long metal spatula and thrown into the bin. Look at this guy throwing the bagels around like he's seeing if they can fly through the air like acrobats. He makes a fun sport out of it. I guess he must have to give it a taste test, so he takes one and pulls it apart. Yep, that's a bagel, inside and out all right. And to prove it, he scoops out some cream cheese covering one end. I am sure he then stuffed it into his mouth, or better yet, gave it to the camera guy. You know, the narrator could use one too. Time to make those breakfast and lunch sandwiches. First, slice open the bagels and close them up so they don't dry out. There will be a variety of combinations, and the first starts with bacon, onions, and grilled sliced tomatoes. I'm guessing a BLT, but this is Korea, so I may be surprised. Now to make a perfectly round fried egg. As the eggs are frying, ham joins them on the grill. Everything gets flipped and the pieces of ham get put together and topped with onion, tomato, and cheese. Lots of cheddar cheese is added to this ham and egg combination. Now for the bagel condiments. Wow, a pesto spread with mayo is in between one sliced bagel. And this is for the ham and cheese with a leaf of lettuce and topped with guacamole. What an interesting pairing. I'm trying to imagine what they would taste like together, and all I can guess is incredibly delicious. The pastrami is put into a streamer, and a whole lot of it is added to the poppy seed bagel with mayonnaise and topped with egg and cheese. All that savory bacon is combined with lettuce and tomato for a classic BLT. Now, the last. Tons of cream cheese and then thick smoked salmon with onions and capers. That's a nice take on the infamous bagels with lox that so many Americans eat. This is served on a platter, and the salmon and cream cheese combo costs 7,900 KRW, which is only about $6 US. And the others range between $5 and $6 US. It's too bad South Korea is so far away, 'cause I'm dying to take a bite into that salmon one right now. Bagels are the best. Which of these would be your favorite? I like them all, but that lox sandwich is to die for. It's time to make the donuts for the day. Let's take a trip to a small privately owned confectionery shop and bakery in South Korea to see how it's done. Donut batter is unique from cake batter because it uses much more eggs and a lipid-based shortening such as butter or lard. A small amount of yeast may be added to aerate the rings so they float while cooking. This morning, the donut chef added all the ingredients with milk instead of water and lard in the industrialized mixer. After a few minutes, she tests the dough to make sure it's stretchy, soft, and pliable. It's perfect. To make donuts all the same size and with the perfect hole, she places the batter into the donut machine, which squeezes it out into giant rings, which are also pumped full of air in this process. Pop, pop, onto the tray they go. They remind me of a clay pot I made in kindergarten, only much better. Some donuts don't have holes, for they will be filled with all kinds of sweet fillings. These are weighed to the precise amount, then rolled into balls. A bit about the history of donuts. The Dutch brought their oil cake recipe to New York during the early 1700s, and now with sugar available, added it to the cakes and often filled the centers with fruit preserves. Still, there was no hole. The word donut began to originate when in the 1840s, New England ship captain Hanson Gregory had his mother make dough that could be fried to take along on his voyages. Since he had a cargo of spices such as cinnamon, nutmeg, and lemon, this was added to flavor and better preserve the cakes. Since the centers did not cook through, Captain Gregory put a hole through it to increase the surface area so they cooked evenly. However, it wasn't until World War I when maidens delivered these sweet donuts to the soldiers on the front lines that the word stuck, and a big demand for these quick snacks increased. The round balls have risen slightly in the refrigerator, and the tray is ready to be placed in hot oil to fry, donut style. As they float on the surface, the chef constantly turns them for even cooking. Once a dark golden color, they are done and ready to be cooled before their next treatment. The donuts with the hole are subjected to the same treatment until the frying process is uniform throughout. A few more interesting donut facts. In 1920, New York City, the first automated donut machine was made to accommodate the high demand, especially for movie theaters where the customers could watch the process from start to finish behind the shop's glass. In 1937, adding yeast to a mix, Krispy Kreme Company was born. During World War II, the Salvation Army would deliver truckloads of donuts and other provisions to the men fighting on the front lines. Then, in 1950, the franchise of Dunkin' Donuts was founded, and picking up a dozen donuts of different varieties became a tradition. Now, for selecting the different toppings. This shop in Sinpodong, Icheon, South Korea, gets creative with candy. First, the donut is dipped in chocolate frosting, made with only confectionery sugar, butter, milk, and chocolate powder. And then, various candies are spaced around to be licked or bit off, making the eating of a donut an adventure. The vanilla glazed donuts are perfect with just that. Donuts are also filled with custard, jelly, mousse, and any filling the chef desires. Sprinkles always make the toppings a little more special. Yum! Butterscotch inside and on top with crunchy peanut, other nuts, and coconut. Plus, an extra cookie to scrape some off with. Even a mint chocolate chip one with some extra crunch. These donut customers are really getting spoiled here. Some even have an extra small chocolate bar with white chocolate morsels. Now, what would you expect to pay for this extra large heavenly donut? $10? $5? A special chocolate top donut is $1.35 for a single, and the more plain ones go for about $4 for a half dozen. Don't you just love it when one of your coworkers is inspired to perform a random act of kindness and brings a dozen donuts to the office? I know I do. Bringing these, especially to the job place, dinner, or anywhere people gather, would really brighten their day. It looks like such fun to make these treats, and extra care was added to the ingredients. So, what is your favorite type of donut? Mine is the one filled with vanilla cream. But we want to know what you think in the comments below. And if you'd like to watch more from this channel, please subscribe and hit the bell to be notified about when our next video is posted. Bon appetit!